Sorry.
Ready? Are we on?
We're on. We're live.
Hello. Sorry. Sorry we're running a couple minutes late. We were running our mouths.
We were discussing something.
Yes, discussing important stuff beforehand. So welcome. Thanks for joining us today. So today we are going to talk about polarized filters. And this came up from a couple things. We've got some customers ask us about it, I know, that, and I was telling Val earlier that I think the last 2 or 3 fusing classes I've had, the people have asked me about, like, it's the typical, like, if I was a stained glass person, I have all this glass, and how do I know if it's compatible or not, right? And how do I know what the COE is? And so there's ways of finding out, the COE of a piece of glass if you don't know what that is. And,
Okay, well, kind of.
Well, kind of. Well, sort of. I mean, closer than if you didn't know.
Yes, but we really can't. I'm just afraid now we're going to get people all confused. Well, because we can't, some of the glass isn't what we call tested. So
sure.
We won't really, I mean, when we say we can test to see which fusible glass it is kind of what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Correct?
You're right. I mean, yeah. I mean, we might not be able to specifically know the COE.
And it's not, that's what I always say in my class. It's like not magic, so you have to have a control.
It's not?
No, because there's not this little voice that goes, I'm 90, I'm 96. No, you have to have a control of whichever you use, and
Sure.
you know what that is, and then you put your suspect mystery glass and fuse it on top. And then if it's compatible, there's no stress or little stress, right?
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
Oh, I was thinking of some other little tests that I had in that bag that's over there. But
Like those little weird
the
orange
square
ones?
one. No, just the little squares. Can you get in, or you want me to get up?
Well, I'm not sure I can get out, but
Sorry. So what we're talking
don't
about
film
then
this,
is-
Kaylee.
Okay, got it.
Don't film Val over there trying to grab some stuff. So what the polarized filters, if you're not familiar with what they look like, so this is a set that we sell here at Delphi, and they look like tinted lenses. Polarized filters. A lot of times they have them for cameras, or maybe you have sunglasses with polarized lenses.
Fishermen wear them.
Yep. Right. That helps cut the
Is that right? Fishermen.
people.
Fish. Yeah.
People that fish.
Fishers.
Yeah, so to cut the glare off the water surface, I guess, right? So they just look like tinted lenses. And if you hold them like together, I found how well you can see this, right? So they just look like tinted lenses, but if you rotate one 90 degrees, do you see how dark it becomes? Like, there's the magic.
That's the magic.
You said there wasn't any magic. And then, so what we can do is we can look at the glass between the two filters, which I don't know if you've had this problem with people before too. Sometimes they don't understand the glass has to be between the filters in order to look at it, right? I can't just take these 2 filters and lay it on the glass and then hold it up to the light and try to see if there's stress in it.
Demonstrate that now that you're just doing it. Just show them how you put that in between there.
Yeah, so then what we would do is we would put it between the 2 filters. Let me just show you this setup real quick. So this is one way of making like a bar, like a test bar here. So in this situation, I grabbed 90 COE clear, and then I grabbed some glass that, let's pretend I don't know what the COE was, right? Maybe it's some stained glass or something. And then fuse them in between. So all the clear in this situation is 90. And as like Val was saying, you do need a control, right? You need to have one of the glass. You have to at least know what the COE of that one is. And then, and this is, again, for the non-fusers out there, or even fusers, right? 2 layers of glass, right? So the glass wants to be 1/4 inch, so I put 2 layers of clear, 2 layers of white. I think you get the idea, right? And I just butt them up against each other and then fuse them. And then what we're going to look for when we're looking through the polarized filters is we want to see where the glasses meet and if there's any stress there, because if there's an excessive amount of stress, then we would assume that they're not compatible, is sort of the thinking.
And stress is shown to us by being sort of a bright light area.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
I don't know. That's how I.
So this is what I tell people, right? So like I mentioned before, so when we have these 2 together and they're dark, so if I look through this and if that junction of where the 2 pieces of glass meet is dark, like the clear in particular, right? That means there's no stress there. But if it's light, like Val is like pointing out, then that means there is some stress. And so I tried to pick some glasses. I'm trying to catch here between the clear and that kind of red piece. I don't know how easy it is to see in this room.
You can see
is
the
it
halos.
sort of,
So what
yeah,
you're
do you see the
looking
halos?
for
Yeah.
is right here, right there, You can kind of see it over there, but not really.
Yeah, from where I'm at, I can actually see it in the four corners, sort of.
Yeah.
You see this, so
If
it
you
looks
actually
lighter.
hold it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And sometimes we say it's, it's. I could say the light source. Yeah, go ahaid, grab it.
You can
Kaylee.
hold it up towards the light.
Yeah,
There you
a
go.
strong light source makes it even better. So.
There, now you can really see those four halos.
So that shows there's stress there. I mean, apparently not enough stress to cause the glass to break, but there definitely is some stress.
And that's actually what we call this product on our website, stress tester.
Oh, the stress tester. Wow.
So if you know your control, your clear is a 90, and then you put that white, like what we just looked at, and you see all that sort of bright light shadow around it, then you can kind of assume that that's probably not 90.
Yeah, that's the best thing you could do.
That's
Yeah,
how you
right.
do it. I mean,
Yep.
it's not like, okay, it's automatically 96, not necessarily.
Sure. No, not necessarily.
So,
No. I mean, if you're curious, I did actually. I wanted to make one that was pretty easy to see. So all the color here, including the white there, is 96. I did that with this one. But we had some others on. This one is something a little more subtle. We were testing some other glass with, again, using a 90 COE and testing this glass with the assumption that it was 90. And then there's some stress in it. I don't know if you want to show these one, Kaylee, but it's not so different manufacturers, right? So sometimes you might see some slight variations with different manufacturers. I think maybe the white might be better than the amber. Just show a little stress, but I think.
here, let me just get it for you. Okay.
Sorry, peoples.
What did you want out of this bag?
Oh, I just wanted to show. So a lot of times that when I talk to people about the filters, is that something has to be transparent, or else you're not going to be able to see the stress that's in the glass. That's why we do these little bars of color next to a clear so we can see it. Sometimes I'll do it like this, where. So again, the base is all clear. So this is actually like a layer, 2 layers of clear, and then I put a white on top of it and fire it. So if I'm testing the white here to see if that's compatible with the clear. So even though it's opaque, you can do it that way too, instead of having to do them, this kind of style, right? Just throw something on top of a clear that you know what it is, and fire it up and try it out.
Yeah, good. That's a good way to do it, though, if you have multiple colors.
Yeah,
I mean,
good point,
you can
right?
Get
This
it all
is-
done in one
Yeah,
fire.
if you're doing a bunch of glass. So like I said, I know that, let's say you started out in stained glass before you got into fusing, you bought all this glass, and, there's probably odds that some of that is fusible. Again, without really knowing the manufacturer, you probably wouldn't know if it's fusible or not, and this is a great way of testing that to see whether or not it is. Do you want to show them then the stuff that doesn't need a polarized filter, right?
Yes,
So,
yeah, these things are the obvious. This is, and this is also interesting because, this one has continued to break,
Oh, it
right?
just continues to break,
We
yeah.
keep it inside this bubble wrap because every time we open it up, there's more cracking going on. But what's interesting, same thing as like Roy was pointing out, when you see this kind of cracking, you're looking at where the glass is touching something else. So if you look right here, this orange and this green, they're touching all right along there. And look, they like each other.
Yeah.
They're friends. They're fine. But then you go over here, and where the yellow's touching the green and where the yellow's touching the red, and the clear, it's not real happy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this one I think is always really good too.
Yeah, this one down
it's so
here.
isolated, right? I mean, the crack goes only around the yellow.
right.
That's a sure sign of incompatibility.
So so we're saying that this yellow in here got mixed up into
whatever it is, but-
whoever made this was using. So, and that's also an interesting thing about cracking, right? I mean, no, that's not what this video is about, but when you have this kind of meandering, following cracking, you really do want to look at it closely, because it's often because you've got something in there that wasn't compatible with the rest. So in this case, if this were me at home, and I had this happening, I'd be looking for the rest of that yellow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Get it out of your stock,
so
yeah.
it can be helpful in the fact that you're not going to use it again. I know this is kind of not fun if this kind of thing happens, but it's also a little different than a thermal shock crack too, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's much
So
cheaper.
it's interesting to learn these things because then you can start to sort of assess what went wrong. So if it was more just a clean break, it's probably something caused by a temperature issue, too hot too fast, too cool too fast. But if it's something that kind of becomes more spider web or has some real direction changes.
Yeah, that's what I say. I say that if it has a path to it, then it probably more than likely it's
incompatible, and I would,
sort.
then like I say, look for that. This one's interesting.
This one,
and I don't even know. Oh, you did this.
Yeah. Well, it was a student's work.
Roy,
So.
I'm sorry, Roy did this, but No, I know, but that's the problem with us around here because we do have an awful lot of glass around and different people in the different glass, and so this green rod somehow got into our rod that was a 90, and so they look the same. You wouldn't know. So she had all these rods going all nice and pretty, and then this green one. But you can see this green one. This one's so obvious. This green one didn't even melt. So this is a borosilicate rod right here that somehow got into the 90. And a borosilicate rod has a COE of 33. So you can see how there was just no way that baby was going to melt into this stuff. So
and it just popped right out.
Yeah, and so
it was aggressive too in the kiln. One of the most aggressive ones I've seen, where it was just popped all over the place in the kiln.
So that's a real good example of
don't need any polarized filters for that.
Not at all. And so these are just other examples.
Yeah,
you wanted to...
So we wanted to show some samples, right? So Val made this piece where it's 90, right? The clear is 90. Is that correct?
No.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, because aren't these all 90?
Those are 90.
Yeah, so the clear is 96.
Oh, the clear is 96. Oh, but you put all this 90 stuff on top, and then. So I know immediately what people will notice is that it didn't crack, right? I mean, the piece didn't crack. So Val and I, before we decided to do this little talk, we had talked about this type of thing because it potentially happens, right? I mean, it's when things are incompatible. What causes them to break sometimes is it's stress, right? And so then you have to look at what is the amount of stress, right? So how much stress is there really? And so apparently in this particular piece, even though again this orange color is also a 90, right? Is that correct?
It's a 96. I got this and this are 96. So
these things are 90. Oh,
right.
Ooh, wow. With the embellishments.
Yeah, embellishments. Did you look at it through the filters?
Well, I was thinking with the bigger pieces, we could see how it is compatible.
Oh gosh, look at that.
Oh, or is that around the peas?
I was looking around the peas.
Aren't those cute?
Yeah, I'll let Kaylee take it. So again, one thing that Val and I are not, hopefully we are not.
Around the glass really quick so we can see the difference.
Just around the colored glass?
Yep.
Yeah, you bet. Right there it is. So again, Val and I are not by any means saying that you can use 90 and 96. We're
not saying that at all.
Because Val and I teach many classes here, and people ask us lots of times, or sometimes customers just do, and they're like, well, I'm doing this project and it's 90, but could I throw a little 96 Frit on it? And then Val and I, we say, well, you can do whatever you want, but
not against the law.
It's not against the law, but
is it a good idea? I don't know. I mean, then we say, then it becomes, well, why are you doing it? I mean, because you don't have the COE that to use the right one, so you just want, I don't know, but to us, or to me at least, that I would never knowingly do that. I mean, accidentally, I think I've done it many times, just for the reason I said. We have lots of stuff laying around here, and sometimes you just sort of, don't quite think it through, and you picked up something that wasn't compatible. But knowingly, I would not, just because I'm not a big fan of wasting my time. So, chances are you might get away with it. If it's just a little Frit on top of something, or these little pieces on top that seem to, have stress, but it hasn't broken yet, then, try it if you want. But I don't typically make pieces and want to wait around to see if they're going to break, So I would not do it. But other people
People do, and I tell people if you're making a gift and giving it to your mom, and she's going to love everything you make anyways. So if it cracks, is that a big deal? But if you're making your stuff and you're selling it, I wouldn't even consider it. Yeah, why? Right? Because one of the potential is we looked at even this piece that had stress in it. Who knows if this piece might break tomorrow, right? that's the issue with stress.
And that does happen. We've had many stories about someone who said they were just sitting there watching a football game and the dish just banged apart after, a couple months. And it's just enough vibration affected the level of stress at that point, and it'll break apart.
Yeah, temperature change can be lots of things.
Had I think it was a bowl at his desk. It had been like that for years, and
I even heard
one
that.
day he was on the phone and it popped and shattered.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have this little bowl sitting here that this is actually something we show in our classes when Val and I are talking about, especially about COE and compatibility of glass. And so this little bowl is all the glass is 90 except for this orangey red color, which is a 96. And I made this piece, and so it didn't crack. I thought it was going to crack, and I could, show people what compatibility cracks look like or incompatibility cracks look like.
How many years have we had that?
Yeah, we've had it for.
I know.
I've been here.
Yeah, which is like 2
years.
years. Oh, okay. Wow. Whoa, 17. Okay.
Wow.
So that's a long time. Yeah, and so I slumped it because I thought that would add more stress to it, right? And then that would cause it to break, and that didn't do it. So apparently, again, if you look at it, especially the pattern, this just not big enough, right? Maybe the orange-red pieces aren't big enough compared to everything else going on to create enough stress. Now, I think if you look, especially down in here where those two meet, I think you can see some stress. There's a bunch of stress there, but again, just not enough to
there's several
cause it to
places
break,
you can
right?
see some pretty good stress, but watch it break right now.
Yeah, exactly. Right when we're on the.
I don't know. These might be. You want to try these?
Watch your drop-in break it.
Yeah, I was going to say that will be.
Yes,
that would,
I think we need
that
to
was-
Is it
twist
too hard to see?
No, we need to twist.
Oh, did
the
I give you the-
filters, I think.
I was testing you guys. That's it.
We'll see you there.
There you go. Yeah, it helps
There
if
you
you
go.
twist the one 90 degrees. So.
and there is this, and I don't know if I need to say it or not, but I feel like it's also a question that I get, and it's a good question. It's an interesting, it's a good thought. People will say, well, if I've used something like that, like say I wanted this black frit and I didn't have any, and I'm just going to throw a little bit of 96 black frit on top of this plate, and if I add time to the annealing cycle, will that help? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
No, you can't. If we tried to if this were a temperature issue, and it was just a straight crack, and we put it together and somehow fused it again, we could get away with that. That we would be fixing the problem because that was a temperature issue. But you can't keep firing an issue that's incompatible. It'll just keep being incompatible, and it'll just keep re-breaking. So it might melt back together, but
it's possible.
But it also will start cracking again. So there isn't any. If you've got something like this, just save it and show people. That's an example of what not to do.
Well, it's funny that I had just had a class just a couple of days ago, and somebody in there asked me something similar again about using different COEs in one project, and he was like, okay, it's going to be 75% 96 and about 25% 90, so should I use the 96 firing schedule? Will that work? And I said, no, it's not going to work because they're not compatible. And then he's like, oh, so I should use the 90 COE firing schedule. And I was like, no. Sort of like what Val's saying.
It's kind of like a
The firing
testament
schedule,
to our
I know,
teaching
it's like-
skills, isn't it?
Apparently, I didn't cover that very well in class, but if the class is incompatible, it is, right? And unfortunately, like I said, sometimes you don't find out until somewhere down the road. Sometimes you get lucky; it happens right in the kiln, and okay, that's not it, and I don't have to worry with it. But
Yep.
But the filters, anyways. So the whole point of our little talk was supposed to be about these, stress testers. Sorry, I was struggling on that.
I call them films. I don't know why.
I say filters, but no.
Filters these days can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
So.
I think films.
It filters out a certain kind of light, I think. No, it does not do that. Anyways, but they're great. I mean, again, if you have glass, you're not sure what it is, or you bought some at a yard sale from somebody and want to see, you can at least see if it's compatible with what you have, right? I mean, again, like Val said, you can't always necessarily tell exactly what the COE is, but if you have, if you pick one and try it out, and if it works, great. If not, then you know that you can't use those in larger projects. Anyways,
Yeah.
Well,
So, no questions?
I guess, man, you guys are, no questions. I guess we did a nice job explaining. But if you do have questions, I mean, you can reach out to us later. You can always email us at facebook@delphiglass.com. You can send us a message on Facebook or Instagram.
Or you can email us.
Or you can email us. I said that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh, shoot.
I
I was
think most
really
of it goes
thinking
to
I got
Kaylee,
in
so
there
just,
with one.
It does.
Kaylee will track us down. But if you have questions later on, so and anybody watching this not live, you can get a hold of us. I'm not sure when we're coming back again.
Probably in a couple weeks.
We think probably in a couple weeks. That's probably it. If you have ideas for things you'd like us to do.
Yeah, I don't think we have a topic
I mean,
determined
we
yet.
have one, yeah.
Okay.
So we're always open for ideas, right? So whatever, stained glass, mosaics, flame working, fusing.
We want to hear what you want.
Yeah, we want to answer questions for you guys. So, well, thanks for joining us
Yep.
today.
We'll see you in a little bit.
Yep,
See you next time.